The morning started like any other. Coffee in one hand, keys in the other, and that familiar quiet you get before the neighborhood wakes up. I stepped outside, glanced toward my detached garage, and froze. 2 trucks. Not small ones. Full-size utility trucks. Government-style white, heavy-duty tires, tool racks bolted on the sides. Parked neatly inside my garage, doors wide open like they belonged there. For a second, I honestly thought I was still half asleep. I checked the address on my house. Same place. Same garage I'd owned for years. Same lease paperwork I'd signed with the county sheriff's department 6 months ago. Then I noticed something else. The garage lock changed. My lock was gone, replaced with a fresh, shiny one I didn't recognize. That's when my phone buzzed. A text message. From her. Don't touch the trucks. HOA approved temporary storage. We'll discuss later. No greeting. No explanation. Just an order. This was the HOA president. The same woman who once fined a neighbor for leaving trash cans out 10 minutes too long. The same one who reminded people that she had friends in high places. Around the neighborhood, people whispered her name like it was a warning label.
Karen.
I walked closer, peering into the garage. The trucks were clearly marked for a private contractor, not HOA property. Oil stains already forming on my concrete. A ladder leaning against my wall. Someone had even unplugged my security camera. That's when it hit me.
She didn't ask.
She didn't notify. She didn't even pretend this was a mistake. She just took my garage. I pulled up the lease agreement on my phone, scrolling until I saw the clause in bold letters. Exclusive use of garage structure leased to county sheriff's department for secured vehicle storage. Exclusive use. Meaning even I technically needed permission to store personal items in there. And here she was acting like she owned it. I knocked on her door. No answer. I called her. Straight to voicemail. So I did what any reasonable homeowner would do. I emailed the HOA board with photos, timestamps, and a polite request to remove unauthorized vehicles immediately. The reply came back in under 5 minutes. Garage is considered a shared-use structure under HOA authority. Trucks will remain. Do not interfere. Shared use. I laughed out loud. Because at that exact moment, one of the truck's dashboards lit up, and I recognized the radio unit installed inside. County frequency. This wasn't just disrespect anymore. This was a legal problem. For her.
But she didn't know that yet.
And that was the funny part. Because while she thought she had power, fines, and authority on her side, I had something much stronger. Paperwork. And a phone number saved under Sheriff's Office, direct. Before I made that call, I took one last look at the truck sitting comfortably in my garage. All right, I said to myself. Let's see how this plays out. I didn't call the sheriff right away. Not yet. First, I wanted to understand how far Karen was willing to take this fantasy where my garage magically belonged to her. Because people like her always leave a paper trail when they think they're untouchable. By noon, the neighborhood was buzzing. One truck belonged to a private paving contractor. The other? Landscaping equipment stacked so tight it nearly scratched my walls. Workers came and went like my garage was a public parking lot. One of them even waved at me, cheerfully, like I was the help. I walked over and asked, calmly, who authorized them to be there. HOA president, the driver said. She told us this garage was community overflow. Said owner was aware. That word again. Aware. I took photos. Lots of them. License plates. Equipment. Workers inside my structure. Timestamps. Even the new lock with the serial number still visible. Then my phone rang.
Karen.
You're causing confusion, she said, voice tight but smug. I approved those trucks. The HOA needs temporary storage. You broke my lock, I replied. And you trespassed on a lease structure. She laughed. Actually laughed. The HOA overrides private leases, she said. I checked. That was interesting, because I knew for a fact she hadn't. I asked her one simple question. Did you notify the county sheriff that you were accessing their leased property? Silence. Then, this doesn't concern them. That was my cue. I hung up and made the call I'd been holding back. The deputy on the other end recognized my name immediately. Apparently, I wasn't just a homeowner. I was listed as a secured lessor for county vehicle overflow. When I explained that 2 unauthorized vehicles were occupying the space, his tone shifted. "Do not touch anything," he said. "We're dispatching." Within 30 minutes, a marked patrol unit rolled into the neighborhood. Lights off. No drama. Just presence. Karen came out of her house fast this time. Clipboard in hand. HOA badge pinned like a medal. She marched straight up to the deputy, talking before he even stepped out. "There's been a misunderstanding," she said loudly. "This is HOA-controlled property." The deputy asked for documentation. She handed him HOA bylaws. Highlighted, annotated, color-coded. He glanced at them once, then handed them back. "Ma'am," he said, "this structure is under a county lease." Her smile tightened. "HOAs supersede." "No," he interrupted. "They don't." I stepped forward and showed the lease agreement.
Signed.
Stamped. Active. The deputy nodded. Then he walked straight to the garage and radioed in the truck plate numbers. Karen followed, heels clicking, voice rising. "You can't just, this affects the whole neighborhood." That's when the second patrol car arrived. And then a third. Neighbors came out onto their lawns. Phones out. Curtains twitching. The kind of scene HOA boards hate. The deputy turned to Karen. "Did you authorize entry into this structure?" "Yes," she said, chin up. "As HOA president." "Did you replace the lock?" "Yes." "Did you notify the lessee?" "No," she snapped. "Because I don't have to." The deputy exhaled slowly. "Ma'am, you've admitted to unlawful entry and interference with county property." Her face changed. Not anger, not confidence.
Fear.
The workers were told to step away from the trucks. One by one, they did. The garage doors were closed. Evidence sealed. Karen tried one last move. "You're making a big mistake," she said. "I'll call my lawyer." The deputy nodded. "Please do." Because now, this wasn't an HOA issue anymore. It was official. And it was only just beginning. Once the deputies secured the garage, the whole mood of the street shifted. This wasn't gossip anymore. This was process. Clipboards came out. Radios crackled. And Karen? She suddenly wasn't the loudest voice in the space. That alone told me everything. One deputy stayed with the trucks. Another asked me to walk him through the timeline when I discovered the lock change, when the vehicles appeared, and when Karen admitted authorizing it. I didn't embellish. I didn't need to. Facts were doing just fine on their own. Then came the question that really mattered. "Do you have written communication from the HOA about using this garage?" I smiled and opened my phone. Emails, texts, notices taped to my door. All of them saying the same thing in different fonts and tones. HOA requires access. HOA authorizes temporary use. Owner cooperation expected. Not requested. Expected. The deputy scrolled slowly, eyebrows lifting higher with each message. He stopped at one email in particular, sent at 6:12 a.m. that morning. "Failure to comply may result in HOA enforcement actions." He looked up at me. "Enforcement how?" "That," I said, "is what I'd love to know." Karen hovered a few feet away, pretending to be on the phone. But I could see her watching, listening, calculating. The deputy called her over. "Ma'am," he said, "do you have any documentation granting the HOA authority over this structure?" She launched into it again: bylaws, community interest, shared benefit, emergency storage. Words piled on top of words, none of them landing. Finally, the deputy held up a hand. "I'm asking for a deed. A lease. A recorded easement. Something filed with the county." Karen froze. "Well," she said carefully, "the HOA assumed." "That's not documentation," he replied. At that point, a county vehicle rolled in. Not a patrol car, an administrative SUV. Two people stepped out. One from facilities management, one from the county legal office. That was new, and judging by Karen's face, very unexpected. They introduced themselves, shook my hand, and asked to see the garage. Karen tried to follow. The county attorney stopped her. Not right now. The garage door went up. Photos were taken. Measurements checked. The broken lock was bagged. The replacement lock? Also bagged. The facility's manager turned to me. You said this space was designated for overflow and emergencies only? Yes, I said. That's in the lease. He nodded. Then these vehicles shouldn't be here. Period. Outside, neighbors were openly watching now. No hiding. No pretending to water plants. This was better than cable. Karen finally snapped. This is ridiculous, she said. This garage has been unused for months. The county attorney looked at her calmly. Unused doesn't mean unowned. And it definitely doesn't mean available. She tried one last angle. The HOA was acting in the community's best interest. The attorney smiled, but not kindly. The community's best interest doesn't override property law. That was the moment Karen lost control of the narrative. Because once officials stop debating intent and start documenting violations, the story writes itself. The deputies finished their reports. The contractors were told to remove the trucks, under supervision. The county issued a temporary notice restricting access to the garage to authorized personnel only. And Karen? She was handed a card. Someone from our office will be in touch, the attorney said. Do not alter the site.
Do not contact Felicity.
And do not attempt entry again. Her voice was barely audible. This is going too far. The attorney met her eyes.
No, ma'am.
This is exactly far enough. As the trucks rolled out and the crowd slowly dispersed, I stood there looking at my garage, scuffed, invaded, but still standing. Karen thought this was about parking. She had no idea what she'd actually parked herself into. By the next morning, the tone of everything changed. No more angry emails. No more bold font threats taped to doors. The HOA group chat, normally a non-stop stream of complaints about trash bins and lawn height, went completely silent. That silence? It was fear. I found out why around 10 a.m. when a certified letter arrived. Not from the HOA. From their law firm. Inside was a carefully worded notice explaining that the association was reviewing recent actions taken in error and asking for patience while facts are verified. No demands. No fines. No deadlines. Just retreat. About an hour later, Karen knocked on my door. Not pounding this time. Not shouting. Knocking. I didn't open it right away. I watched through the side window as she adjusted her blazer, practiced her face, tried to look calm. When I finally opened the door, she smiled like we were old friends. Can we talk? She asked. I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. She immediately launched into damage control. There's been a misunderstanding, she said. The board acted on incomplete information. We believed the garage was abandoned. I let her finish. That was important. Because when she finally stopped talking, I said one sentence. You replaced a lock on property leased to the county and authorized civilian use of a restricted facility. Her smile collapsed. I didn't know it was that serious, she said quietly. That was the second mistake. Because seriousness isn't decided by how someone feels afterward. It's decided by statutes, contracts, and paper trails, which were now stacking up fast. I told her the county had already issued a formal notice. That their legal office was reviewing trespass, interference with a government lease, and unauthorized access. Her face went pale. This could destroy the HOA, she whispered. I shrugged. You should have checked before you acted. She tried bargaining. Apologies. Promises. Even suggested the HOA would forget past fines and violations if I'd let this go. That was when I knew she still didn't get it. This isn't something I can let go of, I said. It's already out of my hands. Later that afternoon, the HOA board held an emergency meeting. Closed door. No residents allowed. But walls are thin, and panic is loud. Voices raised. Someone shouting about insurance. Someone else asking whether the president had authority to approve anything involving leased property. Karen's name came up a lot. By evening, a notice appeared on the community bulletin board. Temporary suspension of HOA enforcement actions pending legal review. Translation: stop everything before we make it worse. Neighbors started stopping me on the sidewalk. Not to complain, but to ask questions. Real ones. Did she really break into your garage? Is it true the county is involved? Are we in trouble because of her? I kept my answers short and factual. But the truth spread anyway. And once it did, the story shifted from me versus HOA to HOA versus reality. That night, another email hit everyone's inbox. Karen was stepping down as HOA president, effective immediately. No explanation. No goodbye. Just a line at the bottom stating that an interim board would take over until further notice. I stood on my porch reading it twice, then looked toward the garage at the end of the lane.
Lights were on inside now.
County lights. Official. Protected. Karen thought she was asserting authority. What she actually did was invite scrutiny of herself, the HOA, and every corner they'd been cutting for years. And once that door opens, it doesn't close quietly. The fallout didn't take long. 2 days after Karen stepped down, county vehicles started showing up, not to use the garage, but to document it.
Clipboards.
Cameras. Badge numbers. Everything official. They weren't just interested in the garage anymore. They were interested in how often HOA members had accessed it, who authorized the lock change, and why private vehicles had been parked in a space clearly marked under a government lease. Turns out, Karen hadn't just let 2 trucks park there. She'd been using the garage as overflow parking for months. Friends, board members, even contractors, telling everyone it was HOA auxiliary property. That lie unraveled fast. The county issued a formal breach notice to the HOA, not to me. They demanded explanations, access logs, and insurance disclosures. The HOA's insurer immediately froze coverage related to unauthorized use of leased government property. That single email sent the board into full meltdown. Assessments were paused. Projects halted. Vendors stopped work midweek because no one wanted to touch a legally contaminated HOA. Then came the letters. Karen received one from the county, another from the HOA's own attorney, and a third from the insurance carrier. Each one worse than the last. By the end of the week, the board called a community meeting. Open attendance this time. Standing room only. Residents weren't angry at me. They were furious at her. Questions flew. Why didn't you check ownership? Why did you tell us it was HOA property? Did you put us at legal risk? Karen didn't attend. Her lawyer did. And her lawyer didn't answer questions. He read a statement. Karen accepted full responsibility for the unauthorized use, acknowledged acting outside the scope of HOA authority, and agreed to reimburse the association for all legal and administrative costs stemming from the incident. That number? 6 figures and climbing. The HOA voted that night to permanently bar any board member from making unilateral property decisions. New bylaws.
New checks.
New limits. As for the garage, new locks. New cameras. County signage big enough to read from the road. No one parks there anymore. Not even near it. A few neighbors later admitted something funny. They'd always been scared of Karen, but seeing her fall apart over one bad assumption changed everything. Power only works when people believe it's real. Karen believed she could bully first and verify later. She believed a clipboard and confidence beat deeds and contracts. She believed no one would call her bluff. She was wrong. Now the garage is quiet, secure, exactly how it was meant to be. And every time someone slows down near it, they read the sign, think twice, and keep driving. Because the lesson stuck.